January 17th, 2015, between 3:15 a.m. to 3:27 a.m., woke up to a loud noise outside of my window. At first, thought it was the television, but when I muted the TV, realized it was outside. Sounded like an aircraft of some type. When I looked out the window, saw some type of large aircraft hovering 50 feet directly above my apartment townhouse building. From my vantage point had multiple green and red alternating flashing lights. The green lights were flashing like a triangle. Hovered for possibly 5 minutes, then slowly flew away eastbound. The shape above appeared to be oblong, but as it flew away, it looked more like a cylinder with white flashing lights. Took a picture with my cell phone while it was moving away, but appears blurry and somewhat different from what I actually saw. That was what I wrote on my report to MUFON of an encounter that I had with what can be referred to as a UFO sighting back in 2015. I have only shared this with a couple of family members. I knew I wasn't supposed to share it with anyone else until I received confirmation from the Most High. Until now. This experience had been bothering me for several years. I researched UFO sightings, read dream accounts, and other experiences. There didn't seem to be anyone who had an experience or described a craft that matched mine. Many came close, but not exact. It was really perplexing. I also wondered why I was having these experiences until recently, and then I'll just get more into that in a moment. I came across a YouTube video of an Israelite who shared a dream he had. Now, when I listened to his video, it led me to want to share my experience, but I needed more detail. I really don't know why it was required, but that I needed confirmation. So I asked him about details of the craft in his dream, and unfortunately, he was unable to provide any. Somewhat disappointed, I just went on to my normal activities until I received confirmation. 7 months later, I returned to the same video of the YouTuber Zeffanayah yisrael dream. I wondered if it was for a sign for me to go ahead and share my experience, as I received a different understanding with his dream from what I had the first time. Browsing through YouTube later that day while I still contemplated what I should be doing, I actually had went on to Secure Team 10's channel and saw the exact same UFO that I had seen that night. I was amazed. After a few years of reviewing different videos, reading about dreams that people had, and so-called UFO experience of others, with a close but not exact description of what I saw, it was at that time that I received confirmation that I could definitely share my experience. Now, a few days later, I found my notes from MUFON that I had previously couldn't find. So I also had that additional confirmation. And then there was another from someone who commented on my past comment from 7 months ago. So that was a confirmation as well. So right after that is when I found my notes. So the date again was January 17th, 2015, between 3:15 a.m. and 3:27 a.m. The reason why I'm so clear about the exact time is, first, that's what I typed on the MUFON report, but also there's a large clock on my wall in the living room, so when I was awake, I immediately shifted to look at the clock, and that's how I knew what time it was. And I usually normally look at the clock all day anyway. For some reason, I don't know what that's all about. I guess it's just something that I do. So anyway, I had fallen asleep on the sofa. Now, the thing that stands out is that a few days before the experience, I had poured out my heart to the Most High. At the time, who I called God, I was in Christianity. And I just desperately wanted truth. I had grown tired, frustrated, and plain fed up with Christianity and what I thought to be the cherry-coated messages from preachers. I knew that the Most High existed. I just knew that there was deception, and I wanted the absolute truth no matter where it took me. Things at that time had been going pretty well for me in my business and in my personal life, so I was pretty excited about the coming year. I had also prayed to the Most High that I wanted to know the truth, and if it was UFOs, because I had started coming across stuff about UFOs, and even this woman's ministry that talked about UFOs and tied it into the chariots of the Most High, that I wanted to experience. I wanted to be experience a UFO if he was a part of it, and that I wouldn't be afraid. I can't remember the exact day, but I think it might have been the Wednesday or Thursday, a couple of days just prior to my experience or my sighting. Now, the day of my experience was on a Friday night into Saturday morning, and I had fallen asleep on the sofa watching some television. I had been working most of the day on my business, and I was just really tired. It was a long week. So the lights were on, and I was awakened by this really loud noise. It sounded like there was an airplane right outside my window, and I thought that that was strange. Now, let me describe my neighborhood. So I live in a neighborhood where there's multi-level townhomes and condominiums, just all up and down my street. And privately owned, and then they were apartment owned as well, and I actually lived in apartments. So in my particular building there were actually 4 townhomes, so it was a fairly large building. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar, or for anyone that's familiar with the Baltimore area, or just really with homes on the East Coast, they tend to go up versus out. So many of the townhomes had multiple levels. Now mine had 3 levels. And so my living room was on the second level. So I was kind of high up. But there still should have never been an airplane right outside my window. So it was just really strange. So anyway, as I was processing all this stuff in my mind, because remember I'm still in a fog of sleep, I I discounted it as either the television or maybe my heater was coming on. So I tried to go back to sleep, but the noise seemed to get louder, or it continued. So shaken now out of my sleep, shaken now out of my sleep, um, I muted the television to see what this sound was, and it definitely was coming outside, from the outside, and right outside my living room windows. So at that point, I got scared, because after realizing it wasn't a television and it wasn't anything indoors, so I glanced up at the clock, and it was at that time about 3:15 or so in the morning. So with my heart beating super fast, I quickly turned out the lights and peeked behind the blinds. I still heard the noise, but I couldn't see anything. But it seemed like the noise was actually coming from above. So I ran quickly to another window to see if I could see anything better. There wasn't anything directly in front of the window, but then I looked up, and I was just there wasn't anything directly in front of the window, but then I looked up, and I was just shocked. Above my building, maybe 50 feet or so, and I'm not good at these measurements, so it was high up, and it was so large, was this, what I only could describe as an enormous UFO. I mean, this thing was probably like a couple of football fields. I mean, it was large, and it was encompassing like the top of my building, and it was just hovering. And so looking up at it, there was all these different colored flashing lights. And I think there might have been at least 5 different colors, even though in my MUFON writing I said it was only 3, but there was actually only 5. And the flashing lights were all across the bottom. The craft itself was like a steel blue color. like a metal, even though not like a metal that we would be familiar with. It was really, really smooth, and it was more of a metallic sheen. It's just the best way that I can describe it. Now, the lights on the bottom were all flashing red, blue, yellow, white, and green, I think. And they were many, like little lights, and they were all flashing. And like little dots, and they flashed like kind of like how Christmas tree lights flash. And the colors were aligned by colors in the shape of triangles. I really can't explain it, but that's how it was. So as the lights flashed, they were uniform in color, meaning that, for instance, only the yellow lights would flash, and it seemed like a random flash, a random pattern. So all the yellow lights were flashed, but everything was happening so quick. So the yellow lights, the red, blue, green, white, whatever, and they would just all flash quickly, but in this random type pattern. Now, yeah, I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but that's how they were. I mean, I can still see it all in my memory as if it happened yesterday. So there was all these emotions that came upon me all at the same time. I was both excited and terrified. I mean, it's really difficult to explain. I looked up at it for several minutes, just trying to take it all in. And the loud noise was still there. It was still hovering completely still, just directly above my building. And I looked around, like I looked across the street to see if there was like any reflections in my neighbors' windows, or if they had also heard the noise or seen it and, were out trying to figure out what it was. But there was nothing. There was nobody outside. And so it was so perplexing because, and intriguing all at the same time, because of this loud aircraft sound, yet there was nobody standing outside or any indication that anyone else heard or seen it. So I don't know. So I just kept looking at it, and then after a moment, I just suddenly wasn't afraid at all. And so as I watched it, I just noticed, I tried to take in everything I could. And those lights were just moving so quickly. So I went to go ahead and grab my cell phone, and I hurried to take a picture because I didn't want it to disappear. And I started, and I have two phones, so I grabbed the iPhone first, and I started having trouble even getting that phone to turn on, or the camera to come up. It was weird, and it never happened. That was a brand new phone. Actually, both of my phones were brand new at the time. So I quickly grabbed my Samsung phone and was able to get it and started taking pictures. So at first, the camera picture would only come up black. So I would take the picture, look, and it was black. So I thought that might have been because maybe it was night, or because I was in a rush and maybe I was messing up and I was nervous. So I just kept trying to take the pictures. Now, for some reason in my head, I started thinking, what if these things want to get inside my apartment, or if they wanted to bring me up? And I was like, I ain't going on no ship. So I started rebuking stuff. And like I said, I was in a Christian, so I was like rebuking stuff in the name of Jesus all over the place. And I knew that would work against demons because I had started experiencing troubles, and that's exactly what I would do, and it would flee. So I was like, okay. So I kept trying to take the pictures, and then it seemed like as soon as I started rebuking it or whatever, it started flying away, and I didn't want to let it go. So I kept trying to flash the pictures even as it kept going, and it was really weird because it was moving quickly, but it seemed like it was in slow motion. And then the farther it moved away from me, it started to change its shape from like a circle or oblong circular thing to a cigar or cylinder-like shape. Now so as it flew away, and the farther it got, I still kept just trying to take the photos. And when I started looking at some of the photos I took, it looked nothing like what I saw. It literally showed up as this oblong, white, weird-looking shape with black dots. Like I took a black pen, used the marker, white, and colored it in with a white marker, and then put black dots on it. It looked crazy. I was perplexed. I was like, no way. I couldn't believe it. So I immediately ran upstairs to my computer, and I was trying to decide whether or not I should call the police or if I should, or what it was I should do. And I had decided against calling the police because there was nobody else that saw it, so I didn't want them thinking I was crazy and then they come and take me somewhere. And I didn't feel like getting locked up in no mental institution or in jail or whatever. So I decided against that. So I decided to go to the MUFON website and put in a report. My biggest thing is I wanted to capture the experience while it was fresh in my mind in case I would forget. Now, by this time, my adrenaline had started slowing down. I was calming down and thinking more rationally, and I really didn't feel like typing this long dissertation with all the details. So I rushed to write it, and it was getting on about 4 a.m., and I just didn't feel like it. So I hurried up and typed what I read to you earlier, and then I tried to upload my photos. Now, for some reason, I was having trouble uploading that crazy looking photo. So when I finally did get one to upload, on the screen it was completely black. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So as I started, so I was like, I'm tired. I'm like, you know what, let me go to sleep and then I'll just call them back or send them a note later with the picture. And so when I woke up later in the day, I grabbed my phone and I went to look at the pictures because all this was still running in my mind, and the pictures were all black. They were gone. So I was just like, no way. So I did start rebuking anything that was trying to enter my home. And, because I didn't know some devilment was going on, making this stuff disappear. So I was just started rebuking and blessing my house and anointing it with oil. And I just was like, I just lost my opportunity. And I just left it alone. And, up until now, it had just always bothered me off and on. So with that being said, 2015 was a very strange year for me. It seemed that after I had prayed to the Most High about the truth, that I started having all these strange experiences, dreams, and just kind of crazy stuff that just started happening in my life. And I really believe that, especially now looking back, that it was an attack because I was getting to the truth. And I know that other people are experiencing that, so I wanted to make sure I mention that. So I will speak about this more later, in particular the strange dreams. Actually, I've been having strange dreams again recently, so I have to do a video on those. But anyway, after that first experience in January of 2015, I actually had another where I saw another craft. So I did figure out how to get the picture to work that time, and I'm going to include that in the video, as well as the link to the secure team and then the link to the video that secure team got it on, so you can see the craft that I saw, or one that looked like it. So I'm going to go ahead and start going into this second event.
Кажется, космический корабль сигнал. Охренеть.
Okay, so once again, I'm totally stumped. Here are some different filtered shots of it.
Ai, que
É o
saco.
medo que ele vem aqui?
Não, só que você todo dia.
Next, We have yet another strange, glowing or illuminated object, this time in what appears to be a more cylinder-like shape, almost like it's streaking through the sky, but again, it looks as if it's sitting completely still in the night skies over South Korea.
Кажется, космический корабль снова. Охренеть.
Okay, so once again, I'm totally stumped. Here are some different filtered shots of it.
So the second event occurred a couple of months after the first one, and actually it's in March, because when I looked at the picture, it actually had a date. It was March 18th of 2015. Now, I was driving to White Marsh, Maryland, from the Baltimore area, and I had noticed this strange brown shape hovering in the sky, and I actually started seeing it way back on 695. And then when I turned on to 43 or 101 or whatever it is to get to White Marsh off of 695, I saw it high in the sky, and it was just hovering. So when I got to a stoplight, I looked around to see if any of the other cars had noticed what I saw, but it looked like nobody did. They were all doing their thing. And so I was like, oh boy, here we go. But I was really curious, and this thing was completely still, didn't move at all. So as I continued towards my destination, I became unsure if this was a giant balloon or if it was something else. So I decided to kind of follow it to, as far as I could, and found that it was actually located near my destination, near the White Marsh shopping area. So I kind of drove around the mall because I figured there was a street that I might be able to get a closer look. And sure enough, I did, and I was able to immediately discern that it definitely was not a balloon, because I looked around for string or anything that would give an indication that it was some kind of balloon or something, because there was a store that was having a after Christmas sale. Now, of course, it was in March, but they were having some kind of liquidation sale. They were going out of business. And so I thought maybe that could have been a balloon or something, showing people that store, but it didn't have any like sales, advertising, marketing information on it or anything. It was just, and it didn't have a string or nothing. And then when I think about it, it wasn't anywhere near the store. So it was just all like intriguing to me. And again, this whole time, it never moved. So I had been in my car by that time for at least maybe 20 minutes. That it took me from when I saw it on 695 up to the time that I got to the White Marsh Mall area. So anyway, I finally decided to park and try to get a good view of it, and just see what it was, try to figure out what this thing was. And again, it was still there, never moved, didn't make a sound or anything, and there was nobody else that was even paying attention to this. Nothing. And then the other thing that I thought was weird was that it was near exactly where I was going, I'm trying to go to. And the weirder thing about that was it wasn't a planned trip. It was something that I got up and said, let me go ahead, and I'm just going to run out that way real quick and take care of something I wanted to take care of. So anyway, So it wasn't a coincidence at all. It was just like I was being guided. And you can do with that what you want, but that's just what it seemed like. So anyway, so I got in my car and I parked. And I grabbed my phone, the same one that I used before, the Samsung. And I could not get close enough. So I actually first started to do a video, but I couldn't get the zoom in. I couldn't get it to zoom in close enough to get me a good picture. So again, I thought maybe I was out of luck. So so then I tried to take a picture, and I actually tried to take a few pictures. And again, I couldn't get it focused. So I just figured like, man, I'm just out of luck again. I can't get this thing to work out. And I just left it alone because it just looked like a blurry dot in the sky from, you know, what it looked like in my picture. But at least it didn't turn black that time. So I sat in my car a few more minutes and watched this thing. And then maybe 15 more minutes or 15 minutes, I don't know. But that whole time it never moved. It just hovered. It was quiet, and that was that. So finally I had to get to my destination. So after just a few more quick minutes, I just left. And I always wonder what it was. So now flash forward to 2017, and I was looking at some digital photos that I had uploaded from my phones over the years or whatever. And then I found the photos of that day that still just looked like a dot in the sky. And I was telling my mom, I was actually showing her the pictures that I had told her about that experience. And I said, it's a shame. But then I realized that I was able to use a zoom of that program that I was using to view the picture on my computer, and it was actually able to enlarge it enough to show what I believe to be a cigar-shaped craft. And it kind of looked like a blimp, but it wasn't. I know it wasn't, and it didn't look anything like it when I was watching it in White Marsh. But anyway, the photo is attached, or the video and the photo is attached. But I also went ahead and started researching blimps, and you know, do they still exist, and what do they look like? So I included some comparisons there. So anyway, there were a lot of other crazy things that have since occurred in my life since I have been awakened to the truth, and have denied Christianity. And I don't know. I know a lot of you may be going through strange things, and I want to make sure you know that you're not alone. This is my story. I'm not sure why this is the time now that I was given confirmation and everything just came into order, that I would have the photos and the videos and the pictures and stuff, except that it's just the Most High's perfect timing. And I'm going to leave it at that. And I also know that there's a lot of people who are starting to talk about it and teaching on chariots of the Most High and making that connection. So I don't know if that's what it is. I do know that I wasn't scared. That was the one thing that is usually if there's a demonic presence or something demonic happening, I can sense it, I can feel it, I just know it, but I didn't have that feeling. And the only reason why I started rebuking stuff is because stuff just, you know, an idea popped in my head and I was scared. But really, and it was a knee-jerk reaction, because really I wasn't scared. I didn't feel threatened at all. So anyway, that's it. Feel free to reach out. Feel free to comment if you've had this experience, a similar experience, you've seen something similar, or you know what all this means. I would love to hear from you. I hope this edifies and is a blessing to those who read this post or watch the video on YouTube. All praises to the Most High. Shalom and blessings.
I know you have honor and wealth laid up for me, so I just want to thank you that the surpassing greatness of your favor is coming my way. It says in Isaiah that God will give us the hidden riches found in secret places. Think about it. God knows where all the hidden riches are. He knows where all the oil is, the mineral.
Okay, so I don't know what this is that I'm actually seeing, but it's just been sitting out here, and amazingly enough, Well, actually, I see it now. Because at first I couldn't get it to, like even now I can't really get it to focus. But it's just been sitting here. It hasn't moved. I noticed it off the interstate actually. I don't know what this is, but it's strange. It's just like a weird shape just sitting in the air. And I can't get it to focus. So let me see if I can take a picture.